Hey guys, this is Echo Soundworks with ADSR. In this video, we'll be taking a quick tour and demo of Europa by Reason. So this is kind of like a first look, kind of not, just in that this synth has actually been out for about a year, but only to Reason users. So just last week, Propeller had announced that this would be opened up to all DAW users as a standalone plugin. So I'm using it right now with Logic 10. So Europa is a spectral-based wavetable synthesizer. If you're wondering, well, what is a spectral-based wavetable synth versus a typical wavetable synth, you can kind of boil it down to when and where the synth is looking at the output of the oscillators as audio versus when it's still kind of looking at it as, oh, this is something algorithmic or something that I'm creating from scratch. And Europa is doing that in the actual filter section, which allows you to have these kind of unique filter modes that are spectral-based, meaning you can add timbre, add different harmonics to your sound, and as well as this harmonic control, right? So if I just play this real quick, we have a basic sine wave loaded up. Super crazy, I know. It's a drop, it's a banger. So that's what we got. So if I take my shape control, we can go from, all the basic shapes. So let's go to something with a little bit more harmonic content. Let's go to a saw wave. So if we turn on the spectral filter, you'll notice that it defaults to a typical kind of a low pass 12 filter, low pass 12, right? Those are the standard filters you'd see in most wavetable synths. Well, there's also these resonator filters and these comb filters. Let's go to one of the resonators. You can see and hear that's actually adding, it's more of an additive based synthesis approach, it's adding harmonics to our sound. And we can take that a step further by controlling the actual harmonics that are being added by that filter type. So let's go to odd and even. So it's still a resonator shape, but now the harmonics is telling the spectral shape of the resonator 1 to only affect odd and even, and we can go to ensemble. Right, so a lot of crazy stuff can happen with this spectral filter and this harmonic shaper in the actual filter. So let's double back now to the main engine section. It's a 3-oscillator synth, and within each oscillator, you can have your own spectral filter and harmonic control, as well as 2 dedicated modifiers. The modifiers, if you guys are serum or massive users, are like your warp or your bend modes. So you have things like fold, hard sync, quantize, and even FM. Right, so you can make a wide range of sounds in this synth just by using, waveforms with the modifiers. But take that a step further with the spectral control and crazy things can happen. That's a pretty crazy sound from a starting point. It's not crazy in terms of, this wouldn't fit in any type of music. But if that's just your starting waveform, essentially, there's a lot of stuff going on there. And we can control the modifier with an LFO, and we can choose other sources here. So we can have envelope 2, for instance, control this, and start to kind of move through the sound, right? So a lot of things can happen just in the modifier sections because you have 2 of them, right? So you can blend this FM with sync with any of these other controls. And again, I just want to reiterate that these modifiers are independent for each oscillator. So you have a total of 6, and you have a total of 3 different spectral filters as well. So I'm going to initialize the patch real quick. Let's look at this unison engine real quick. Let's go to a saw waveform. The thing I noticed was that it's very musical sounding. And it's nice that there's a little visual readout of the actual voices and the blend control. Right, so for typical unison, super saw, hyper saw sounds, it is there. All right, let's look at some of the really cool, unique features that stood out to me personally. So first is there's a good amount of waveforms, but they're things I've seen before. There's a couple that was unique. The vocal cord one is modeled after the human vocal cord track, and if you blend that with a vocal format filter, you get some pretty cool effects. right? And then also this car plus string, this is a wavetable that looks at, or basically is a string plug. And you can create different waveforms with envelope 3 and 4. So if I go to, we're at envelope 3 and 4, if I go to 3, start to chase this down, right? And then we go to 4, it's basically at your shape of 0%, what you see in your third envelope, that's what you're gonna see there. And then at 4, that's gonna be at the far right at 100%, and then it's gonna morph between those two. Right, so you can really create your own wavetables quite easily. Now, another really cool feature is you can use your own waveform samples for both wavetables, as well as filter modes, which is pretty crazy. So let's go to the initialize patch, and I'm gonna load up a custom waveform into our oscillator. So to do this, you select the drop-down menu and choose user wave, and then you're gonna go down here to your user wave section. Unfortunately, it is not drag and drop. Maybe that'll happen later in an update, which would be cool. But you can select from a waveform, and I've already selected some wavetables I made for Serum to be into this folder. So they all work quite well. So let's load up the harp, for instance. So this is a wavetable that was resynthesized from a sample. So I need to move through my shape control to get it to sound like a pluck. Well, let's just apply envelope 1 to that. So I'm gonna do that right now. Let's take loop off. I want this to ramp up. We'll have a sustain there at the end. Let's turn the sustain down and the release up on the actual sound. And let's add some reverb and some delay. Right, so we have a pluck type sound going. It's quite easy to do. This is just using a custom waveform. So let's go to our spectral filter, and in this, I'm actually going to we're going to go to the mode. We're going to go to user wave. And now we're using the same waveform essentially for our filter as we are for our waveform. And let's apply some harmonics. So it's pretty cool to be able to use the same sample or same wavetable as your sound, as your filter. Some crazy things can happen for sure. Let's take this to a different shape. Let's go to a resonator. I'm having envelope 2 control that a little bit by turning this value up. Let's make sure it's not on loop. I just want on sustain. And let's turn on key trig. All right, so let's apply a little bit of this random gain. So we have a pretty cool harp sound going, right? It didn't take that long to go through and do. Now, down here you have your master filter, which is helpful because if you're stacking all these spectral filters in the oscillator, the engine section together, it's nice to be able to kind of control the whole output of the sound with a filter. For instance, let's say I go to my second oscillator here, and I use this kind of pluck sound, the square sound. And let's say I'm using like a comb filter. Right, that's not going to pair well with this, with our first sound from our first oscillator, the harp sample, right? So what we can do, let's turn this resonance down. What we can do now is we can control the level of these oscillators with this mixer here, right? And now we can filter, right? We can tell it to filter out oscillator 2. All right, guys, that sums up our quick look at Europa by Reason. It's a really cool synth. Sounds great. There's a bunch of interesting features. If you guys are interested in it, for sure, check it out. I don't think you would be disappointed in it. If you have any questions or comments, post them, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I'm Echo Soundworks. Thank you so much for watching. If you guys like this video and want to see more like it, please subscribe to the ADSR channel. I'll see you next time, guys.